Hello, Pillar Church. My name is Laurel Hall, and I'm coming to you now from my office, bedroom, parents' house, all of the above. You can typically find me in Grand Rapids, but since March, I've been posting up near the beach with my folks. So today, I wanted to share with you just a little bit of what I've been thinking about, a particular prayer, and then I'll kind of guide you through the context of why that particular prayer keeps coming up for me. So I often hold multiple emotions at once. That seems to be a topic we've been talking about a lot, of this duality of emotion, of feeling a lot of complexities at one time. It's something that I think I typically feel anyway, but it's certainly been enhanced by COVID. So whether that's stillness and chaos, or longing and numbness, or certainty and overwhelm, or confidence and security, care, resentment, trust, apathy, empathy, self-preservation, selfishness, self-servitude. So these multiple things that we are feeling at once. When I see the first list, it points a little bit more towards fragility and towards fear. And I think the other one points more towards something that's grounded, something that's more certain. So when I read the first words, it kind of sounds like the state of our world. Sounds like what I'm scrolling through on social media. And if I'm honest, it's kind of how I feel in my heart. Chaotic, numb, overwhelmed. The other half of the list, however, sounds a little bit more like the way of the cross. It's still. It's eager, it is selfless, it's empathetic. So when I think about that toggling, that back and forth, it's reminding me of, again, this prayer, the peace prayer of St. Francis. So I'll read that to you now and talk a little bit more about it. So it reads, "Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. When there's hatred, let me sow love. Where there's injury, pardon. Where there's doubt, faith. Where there's despair, hope. Where there's darkness, light. Where there's sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that I might not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is given that we receive, and it's in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it's in dying that we are born into eternal life." So you'll hear that same cadence of toggling, this back and forth, in St. Francis' prayer. Similarly, there's kind of both lanes of what we hear of our world right now: hatred, injury, despair. And then the other sounds like the way of the cross: love and hope and light. So the gospel seems to center around things that are indeed counterintuitive. To die is gain in Philippians, or that we should love our neighbor as ourselves from Mark, or caring for the least of these, that they have equal value, again in Matthew, or that the sole sheep is sought after instead of the 99, again in Luke. So again, perhaps the gospel is not about us. Perhaps the way of the gospel is disruptive to culture. Perhaps the way of the gospel is opposite to how we are wired. Could it be uncomfortable and opposed to our gut reaction? Does it feel harder? Does it dismantle systems that we benefit from? Does it make us think of others before ourselves? Does it take more work? I think that it does. But in the same way that we take on habits or phrases or embodiments of, say, friends or families that we surround ourselves with, I think we should extend that level of closeness towards Jesus. In order to grow in our likeness to him, perhaps the way of the cross will feel more natural or more innate after doing that. The to die is gain gospel, it suddenly feels a little bit less foreign. And the sowing love instead of hatred, that reality feels a little bit more automatic. So again, while we face opposition, hatred, or love, doubt or faith, despair or hope, sadness or joy. While I do think it's important to hold multiple emotions at once, like give validity to both of those things, I do think that the way of the cross seems to point us clearly in a direction that ultimately leads to peace. It leads us to stillness. It embodies empathy. It asks us to be selfless. It journeys us towards that all things new reality, and that insinuates that a new thing is unlike anything that we know now. Perhaps Christ is up to something that's larger and that's bigger than our overwhelm or our fatigue or our fear that we're feeling right now. So yes, feel the complexity of emotions, hold multiple at once, but all the while draw near to Christ. The response that he has, the way that he operates, the more that becomes apparent to us and the more that it becomes ingrained, we will become instruments of his peace and the symphony of his grace. Peace to you, Pillar Church.